Good afternoon, everybody. A very big welcome from us here at iCeGs. Thank you very much for registering for our annual lecture 2022. In a minute, I'm going to hand over to Siobhan to do the welcome, but I just wanted to take you through a few small things first of all. So you can see we've got a programme here which will start with Professor Siobhan Neary providing the welcome, and then Professor Alex Malastiotis is the PVC Dean from the College of Arts, Humanities and Education, and he'll be doing the introduction. We'll be then handing over to Jaana for her lecture and taking questions later on after she's finished. And then Professor Siobhan Neary will be providing a vote of thanks. We've got a few messages before we finish, which will probably be around 4:10. So I just wanted to make sure that you realised we are recording the lecture. It will become available on our website just before Christmas once we've done the editing. But in order to make this a great recording, please make sure that your microphones are off. If you need to raise a question during the session, then please raise your hand. There's a little icon at the bottom of the screen. You can also use the chat facility, and for those of you that perhaps haven't heard earlier on, to look at the screen, you'll see a small lilac lozenge at the bottom right hand of the screen. And if you click on that, a menu will slide out from the right hand side. There is a number of little icons, there are a number of little icons at the bottom, the little chat button. If you press on that one, it will open up the chat facility. The two little people icon will give you an idea of who's attending our session today. We've also got a hashtag which you can see at the bottom of the screen. Some of us have started to use this already, but please use it throughout the session. Tweet messages, and please do that freely throughout. Now we're going to manage some questions for Jaana in a different way. We thought, well, this is about technology, so we'll utilise technology as much as we can. And we're going to take questions using an application called Padlet. This helps us manage the questions really efficiently, and we expect there'll be quite a few of those. So what you'll need is your telephone so that you can scan the QR code that you can see on the screen, and you will find that that appears throughout a number of the screens, so you can continue clicking on it. But once you've got it open, you will be able to post your questions, and then I'll field those at the end. So let's move on with the business of today, and I want to first of all invite Professor Siobhan Neary, Head of iCeGs, to do the welcome. Over to you, Siobhan.
Oh, thank you, Nikki, and can I welcome everybody to our lecture today. We had hoped to see you in person. It's actually a beautiful day here in Derby, even though I know the weather's less good in other parts of the country, but unfortunately the fates were against us. But there you go. We are aware, needless to say, of the irony of presenting a lecture about digital and digitisation of our practice, and we were going to do that in face-to-face. So in some ways, it makes sense that we are actually practicing what we preach. I'd just like to welcome you all to iCeGs. As many of you know, iCeGs is we're a small research centre here at the University of Derby. We're actually going into our 25th anniversary. We were founded in 1998, and this is, I think, probably our 25th annual lecture. So we have a very strong background in running these events, and the annual lecture is the flagship event for iCeGs every year. It is an important part of the calendar, not just for us, but I know for many colleagues in the sector. I know people have said to me often over the years that they know Christmas is starting when they arrive at Derby for the iCeGs annual lecture. So hopefully you'll feel that Christmas is just around the corner after you log off later today. As I said, the lecture is an important activity for us. It's important in terms of showcasing topics that inform practice, challenge our thinking, and stimulate discussion. We always seek to invite speakers who will help us to reconsider and reevaluate our practice, our research, and the relationship all of that has within the policy context that we all work wherever we happen to be working. And we've had a number of speakers over the years, needless to say. Tony Watts, I think, has probably done 2 lectures for us, Ronald Sultana, Gideon Al-Romani, Barry Hobson, David Andrews, and last year we were really privileged to have Marcelo Ribeiro from Brazil. So the international perspective is equally important to us, and to learning and hearing from colleagues in other parts of the world helps us to understand our own work more, and as well to build connections. So I am absolutely thrilled that Jaana agreed to come and speak to us today, and this is an area of work that she is particularly expert in. So what I'd like to do now, I'm going to pass over to my colleague, Professor Alex Malasiotis, who is the PVC and Dean of the College of Arts, Humanities and Education. So if I can hand over to Alex, that would be lovely.
Thank you, Siobhan. And can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well, thank you.
We can hear you, Alex.
Thank you, Siobhan and Nikki, for this introduction, and it's wonderful to have Jaana with us. A very warm welcome to Jaana and everybody else in the audience. We have indeed, as you said, Siobhan, a pleasant afternoon with a bit of sunshine, but still 1 degree, which for me is freezing cold. But then I looked at Jaana's place, and she's with a temperature of -15. So I think we're really okay here in Derby. I consider it even sunny. We're really grateful when Jaana agreed to support iCeGs and the University of Derby by providing this year's annual lecture. And as you said, indeed, Siobhan, it is the 25th year, and this is a tradition of some long-standing now, and we have been privileged to hear from some of the world's most eminent specialists in career development. This year's speaker has had an exceptional career in the field. Dr. Jaana Kettunen is Professor of Guidance and Vice Director of the Finnish Institute for Educational Research at the University of Jyväskylä in Finland. Her research revolves around career guidance practice and public policy development, with a special interest on the design and the use of information and communication technology in career guidance. She is a research associate at the Florida State University Center for the Study of Technology in Counseling and Career Development in the US. She's also on the board of the International Center for Career Development and is chair of the ICT Strategy Working Group of the International Association for Educational and Vocational Guidance and the Technology Committee of the National Career Development Association. She's nominated national expert at KEDEFO CareersNet Expert Network for Lifelong Guidance and Career Development and member of its advisory board. She was a member of coordination unit of the European Lifelong Guidance Policy Network, ELGPN, in 2007 up to 2015. So really, we have an excellent and a very experienced speaker, and we hope that we're going to learn a lot from her. In terms of the lecture, Jaana's lecture is entitled Digitally Transforming Ourselves, Responding to the Rapid Changes in Technology and its Application to Career Guidance and Development Services. Jaana intends to help us understand how technology has helped career development practitioners respond to the challenges that the pandemic introduced, She will reflect on what we have learned from this fraud period and the implications for the development of career development services. I hope you all enjoy this extremely useful lecture, and I hope you have a lot of questions and discussion at the end. And once again, a very warm welcome to Jaana. Over to you, Siobhan or Nikki.
Thank you very much, Alex. That was a great introduction, and I'm sure we're all very excited to hear what Jaana's got to say. So, Jaana, I'm going to invite you to share your slides now, and we welcome you and look forward to hearing what you've got to say. So, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Alex, for the introduction. And I congratulate you on your very good pronunciation of Finnish. Jyväskylä is not an easy word to pronounce. And as you said, it's snowy and -15 here in Finland. So as you said, that this annual lecture opens to Christmas, so it's quite Christmas out here. Thank you for the introduction, and also thank you, Siobhan and Nikki, for the invitation to present today. It is truly a great pleasure to be here today and share some thoughts on this very current topic, focusing on digitalization and digital transformation in career guidance and career development services. And also, as mentioned, the implications that these developments have for guidance services and related practices. In the current time, the big word out there is the digital transformation. That sounds great. It sounds inspiring. It might sound even a bit scary. But how do people, how do we, how do I digitally transform myself? As we all well know, our society has been fundamentally changed over the past years due to the COVID, which in a way forced us to take quite an extraordinary digital leap. And also the rapid developments in existing and emerging digital technologies, such as three-dimensional virtual reality technologies and artificial intelligence. And this technological development, this change will continue. We have seen a significant increase in the use of mobile technologies and social media in past decade. Today, there are thousands of apps that help us to streamline our daily activities and digitally transform activities from paper and pen to a digital platform. So I think many of us has quite unnoticedly already digitalized ourselves a bit. Social media has transformed the whole internet to be a very interactive environment, which offers numerous opportunities for communication, for collaboration, and knowledge sharing, and have become central to our everyday lives, both for leisure and businesses. Well, the use of existing and emerging technologies in guidance-related activities has also increased dramatically in recent years. And this has led the whole sector to acknowledge the need to expand our understanding of these new technologies and also to modernize the current services. Access to digital services, including e-services, has changed how individuals explore and acquire information about education, training, and working opportunities. And this, of course, it requires that both the individuals, the users, the service providers, and public administrations have knowledge about the technologies, how to use the technologies, and also sufficient digital skills. It is acknowledged that existing and emerging technologies, they offer us and to our field a significant opportunities for providing the services, but they also create a demand for new competency among us practitioners. In the current time, the big word out there seems to be the digital transformation. As with many emerging concepts, there is no shortage of definitions to choose from when we talk about digitalization and digital transformation. Although these concepts, they have distinct meanings, they are often used in our everyday languages interchangeably. When we have a closer look of these terms, we also take a little bit look backwards in time. So if we look at these terms, the digitization, it refers to changing from analog to physical to a digital form. So for example, we scan a paper documents and save them in digital documents. That's digitization. We move the information that used to be in analog format more to an online format. So in other words, digitization it is about converting something non-digital into a digital representation or artifact. Digitalization, on the other hand, refers to enabling or improving process by leveraging digital technologies and digitalized data. In other words, making a use of digital technologies and information to transform individual operations. Example of it could be, for example, sending mails. Instead of sending mails, handwritten mails, sending them and depending on the distance between sender and receiver, how long it would take, will you receive the letter within few days or few weeks? This process has been digitalized and we today use more and more emails. And as email example reveals us, digitalization pre-assumes digitization. So in this case, digitalizing the writing to the digital format. On this continuum, then the digital transformation, that refers to a series of coordinated culture, workforce, and technology shifts that enable new operational model and may transform the institute's operation and also strategic directions. It is transformation enabled by digitalization. One example of that could be a National E-Guidance Center that exist or have been put in place. So we digitize information, we digitalize processes and roles that make up the operations, and we digitally transform the services and the strategy. But although these concepts have distinct meanings in our everyday discussion, digitalization is used as most often as a generic term for the digital transformation of all sectors, based on the large-scale adoption of existing and emerging digital technologies. Thus, digitalization can be seen as the transformation, and the technologies are the tools through which it will occur. Well, as the technological developments and the digitalization changes in our society, there has also been a continual evolvement on career professionals' role. Much of the past century emphasis on our professional role was on helping people to make informed point-in-time occupational choices. At this time, guidance services were driven by the need to match an individual traits to job characteristics. Within this context, the guidance practitioner was a content expert with specialized knowledge of the labor market and methods to assess individuals' suitability for and capabilities in the labor market. This model assumed that the individual's abilities and interests could be identified and matched with relevant occupations. As information became and started to be digitalized, an occupational choice came to seen as part of the larger development process rather than a singular matching exercise. Emphasis shifted from vocational development to career development. Here, the practitioner role expanded, being an expert in understanding of the labor market, of practitioner needing to possess specialized knowledge about the processes of career development and career decision making. As a result, we moved beyond guiding individual career choices, now facilitating the individual's career development, including the acquisition and application of career management skills. In other words, bring in the purpose of choosing career and be prepared for continuous change in the labor market. Today, guidance services have evolved beyond placement and career development towards more networking model. This model prepares individuals for employment by focusing on developing networking skills, building relationships with stakeholders, and establishing communities that will serve the individual's career and professional needs throughout their life. Within this model, the practitioner's role has also evolved to include expertise in managing different social spaces. New information technologies have accelerated this process. The continuous development of recruiting software and social media has redefined how individuals make sense of their experiences and connect with employers and professional communities. In this context, our role as a practitioner have evolved in the content experts and network catalysts who participate in variety of communities and develop meaningful connections among stakeholders. Career practitioners now provide direct services to individual citizens seeking educational or vocational opportunities while simultaneously offering consulting services to organizations. They inform, or we inform, policymakers and perform a range of other roles than promote community capacity building and individual access to employment. In short, guidance services have moved from private to the public sphere and from individual sessions to collective engagement. Digital technologies in lifelong guidance. What do recent studies tell us? How do practitioners respond to the rapid changes in technology and its application to career guidance and development services? My own recent studies that I have conducted series of them have revealed us how career practitioners conceive the role of digital technologies in their practice and what are the current approaches within the field. There is variation in approach, but clearly they expand from considering the role of digital technology as a means from delivering information to co-careering. Together, the results of these studies have offered us an overarching picture of 5 general approaches to digital technologies in lifelong guidance. These encompass a passive approach, an information approach, a communication approach, a collaborative career exploration approach, and a co-careering approach. And I will next go through a bit more about these different approaches. The information approach, it is the most typical. In a way, it's also a most limited way of using the technology. Individuals use and seek information about education, about occupation, about different career-related questions. And for us as a professional, the operational understanding of different technologies and ways of using these varying technologies and tools for means for delivering information is becoming increasingly challenging. There's so many different tools, so it feels sometimes overwhelming to know which tools to use, which would be those tools that we use for information that would reach our target groups. Practitioners highlight the importance on having a good media literature skills. Information today take very different formats. They can be text, they can be visuals, they can be videos. So both professionals and individuals need to have a good and varying media literature skills. Proficiency in locating and evaluating the various types of online content and services in critical and active manner is highlighted. This relates not only for us as a professionals that we have a good knowledge about those information sources that are available, but also how do we support the individuals who we are serving and help them to reflect, help them to build and strengthen their skills to find, locate, and evaluate the different kind of information. So accuracy and validity of the information, doesn't matter which of the tools we are using, is highly emphasized by practitioners. Research also shows that individuals are spending less and less time on reading. They want to see and find the information in fast and easily adjustable ways. So visual social media has also found its audience. So visual social media refers to social media platforms that share visual messages rather than traditional text alone. You know best the people that you are serving. So considering how do we use technology, which different technologies for which different target groups also challenges us to think that what are the ways that and the channels that the information that we are providing would best reach the target audience who you are serving. So there is a clear difference that some age groups use more and consume more visual social media than others. The language of how do we make the information so that individuals find it, use it, and are also willing to pass and share that because they find it useful is something for us as a sector to consider. The second way, which is very typical for our sector, is using technology as a communication approach. It is considered as a useful channel and useful media for one-to-one communication and seen as a functional and readily available alternative to face-to-face career services. And in some cases, it also allows individuals to anonymously share their thoughts and questions. Although there are visual channels and different kind of communication technologies that support this communication approach, communicating in different individuals requires still often text writing, and this requires that we have a versatile and varied writing skills and readiness to operate in new ways. Many of us are still trained, or when we did our training, technology was not so much included in our training. So we are very well trained on communicating on face-to-face settings. And when we move this communication to questioning, the discussions, reflections on written format, that challenges us to reconsider how do we put all these noddings and I hear you in written form if there is not a visual channel available. Today, we increasingly also use the video communication channels on one-to-one. And this, of course, once again, challenges us to reconsider what are the new things that we need to take into consideration when we use videos. We have, as I said, we are trained on face-to-face setting. Is there something new, some new elements that we as a professions need to be aware when we use the video communication? So new skills on that, in that area as well. In communication, when we do our professional work, it is also important that we have a proficiency in using various types of online content. So when we have a conversation with individuals, we don't have to spend a lot of time on seeking the information when we would include that, or we would like the individual to reflect on it. And also proficiency on work in specific contexts and work settings. So we know what kind of tools, what kind of, for example, assessments could be brought into this discussion in the session, what we are having with the individual. Privacy is highlighted. Once again, this comes to the technologies. There are a number of technologies that we can use and are utilized in one-to-one communication in our professional settings. Privacy settings, which tools are secure, what kind of discussions or what kind of communication, more question and answers or deep career conversation can be done in what technological environments. Most of us have a work where we work, we get the tools from there. Sometimes individuals might suggest that they'd like to use other tools, but then it's important that we professionals have a knowledge about the privacy settings and which tools fit for which kind of guidance communication settings. The communication approach can take different formats, as you all know. So it can be an asynchronous, written, for example, the traditional way, which is the emails. It can be a synchronous, like chat, it can be a speedy, quite fast conversation requiring us a new kind of skills. Increasingly, through to the COVID, we've got the video conversation. What is also coming to our sector is the virtual three-dimensional virtual reality settings. Those technologies are still in development phases, and some of the equipments that they require might be still quite expensive. But we see that these are new environments where career conversations can take place. We have, in our sector, we have chatbots. So the discussion or one-to-one communication is actually automated. So those still are designed. So there is a man-made design behind them, questions, answers, and different paths. But we are also seeing more developed AI interactions that are coming in more conversational way. Here's an example. I just tested an AI last evening with this question, and surprisingly, the information on this kind of interactive, the conversational way is quite developed on these days. AI, these kind of a conversational way that they provide on this day, they are all already giving an options to further questions, challenging, and for us as a professionals, this will be something in future years to consider. How do we make good use of AI combining some information, and how do we work with AI-based conversational tools that might be coming into our use in near future. So the one-to-one communication can take place today already with the bots and also with the AI. The third typical way of using the technology is then for collaborative career exploration. And this is then moving from one-to-one conversation to a group settings. Focus on here is to how do we foster the collaborative process in career learning. So how do we bring a group of people who might have the same question in an online setting and to share, for them to share, to learn and collaborate around this same theme. We don't have to teach, for example, young people how to use technologies or how to find information or use some of the elements, but often still there is a learning curve on, for example, with the young people, how to work together, how to write together, how to communicate, ask further questions. And it is very typical in educational settings to create a collaborative career learning environment. So you have a group of students, you have a learning aim, what you would like to reach with them, and you set up some kind of a collaborative technological environment. If we work in educational settings, typically that is some kind of learning platform. But it is also increasingly seen that, for example, in public employment services, there are short courses, or you brought people who are pondering the same question, bring them together to an online environment and reflect, share, and bring new knowledge together. So in these settings, writing, editing, and shaping documents together, sharing the outputs with each other, and comment the outputs made by the others in the group, bring the added value of not only a career professional leading the process, but activating everyone who are involved on that group. Key skills, key questions here are: how do we appropriately structure and actively facilitate the group setting and the process that is taking place? So guiding and shaping the discourse, giving a space for individuals to ask questions, share their experience, share their knowledge, and bring that to a common collaborative learning space. So in such a whether it is a shorter time group activity or whether it's a longer time, for us it is to, when we have the learning aim, then how do we sequence this activity? What are the key tasks, key assignments that we as a professional consider would support the learning process? What are the tools that would fit for such an assignment? So is it something that it's within the tool that you are using, or do you bring an additional tool, or do you combine a number of the different tools or activities that will make the process? As a whole, when we plan such a collaborative career exploration process online, whether it's a one platform, which technological elements you are planning to use, or whether you use different tools for different parts. Here's one model which is from Salmons, that how to structure such an environment. It doesn't matter how long the process is, what are the tools. It is to start the making sure that everyone in this group has access to an environment and gets motivated, or we encourage them to become active on this environment. So welcoming and encouraging, having some activities like here when we came, we were very welcomed we were also encouraged to share our thoughts, so providing the access and motivation. The second phase and it's the socialization already. So presenting a little bit, learning a bit about each other in such environments. If they are people who come together in face-to-face settings, it doesn't take so much effort. But if you bring people who don't know each other earlier, then it's in order to move and have a good collaboration and help people to ask questions, it is worth a while to put some time on there. The third phase on designing, it's then the information part. So we as a professional designing what information is to provide it, what it is to be explored, and then tutoring and supporting the users on using that material. Sometimes if the links are for the website, there might be a lot of information over there. So giving good and detailed instructions which part they are to explore, and giving us some assignments relating that. Then it comes to the individual knowledge construction part, creating active the assignments, discussions, peer activities, so that we as professionals would facilitate the process when the group actually then reflects and shares and builds new understanding. At the end, it is then just to make sure that what was the overall aim of the learning aim, or the aim of that we design it for this activity. It's how individuals, when they look their path, how they thought that this learning occurred. So what is the new knowledge? Do they know what they do next? Do they know where the information is available later if they need that? And just making recording of that. The fifth approach, if the previous approach, collaborative career learning, takes typically place in organized settings where we as a professional invite the individuals or build the learning environment or the career exploration environment. The co-careering, that refers to a shared expertise and meaningful co-construction of guidance questions or career issues among community members, which can take place typically in social media settings. So individuals, they are present in different kind of technological environment, different kind of digital environments. They can be in virtual worlds, but this is where they will make the use of those who are present on that environment, or who they are connected. So co-careering, whoever is around the individual is the one possible resource for him, her, and possible person to reflect on this question. So we as a professionals are not in lead of co-careering. We are a one possible resource for individual on that online environment, who they could contact, where we are in this individual's network, we could and we can then contribute. For us, this creates a new kind of thinking. How do we make ourselves available for individuals in these open settings? How do we make ourselves appear so that if someone has a question and I'm not in, or my organization is not on his or her network or on this net, that then someone could tag me and say, okay, well, I think there is this person here who could then respond to your question. In social media settings, if we have a profile, if I have a professional profile, my institute has a profile, that requires a mindful, properly managed, and constantly monitored online presence. So generally, I'm often asked which technology is to use or which should we be used. Technology comes and goes, but it seems even that if we look at the research over the past decades, there have been these typical approaches, and the skills relating some of the approaches have remained the same, but some of them have evolved. So for us as professionals, it is important to know that there is a variety of ways how can we utilize technology. And if we know that there are these different ways, this gives us an opportunity also make informed based decisions. How do we make use of the technology? Which is the way that we can and we would like to serve our target group. Do we take an information approach, or do we take an information and communication approach? And then also reflect what kind of skills, what kind of technological needs, what are the requirements are related, for example, based on such a research in different approaches. Overall, countries are in very different phases when we talk about the use of digital technology or the implementation of digital technologies in career services. We have globally, we have countries where there is still challenges on providing access to the technologies. It's not only countries, in some places it is still that individuals or regions also have challenges on accessing the digital technologies. Countries, when there is access in place, some countries then after that, they might have challenges on providing access to information. Although some information might be in place, it might be that it doesn't cover the whole sector, or some of the information is behind paywalls. So it's not openly available for all citizens, or the information has grown old and it's not updated to fit for the newest technologies. Then the third challenge, you have access, you have information available. It might come to the skills and competencies of the citizens or the skills and competencies of professionals. So although that we have resources, we have information, we do not have sufficient skills to make use of the information or the provided resources that are online. So highlighting the need for training and the skills development for citizens as well. And the fourth, it is that in national, it is the last one, the inadequate integration refers that there might be access to technology, information, and extensive other resources relating to what would be useful are in place. Individuals have skills and professionals, but the national systems might be designed in such a way that professionals don't fit for the needs that practitioners have, or although they are planned, they are not professionals are not trained to use them. So that refers to the fault. So national systems are not there's not sufficient training on making the best use of them. So how to tackle such issues? Here are just a few pointers. So in order to support that there is access to digital technology, it's important to secure the funding so that regions, how do we make sure that it also those who maybe don't have the affordance of the technology and are supported. So making a case on demonstrating the development needs and credible plans so that we get that funding on securing the access. Access to information, exploiting the synergies, and finding a regional, national commitment for the ongoing refinement of the information content and delivery. We know that information grows in some cases old fast. So open data, making sure that there is not overlapping information developed in region or national is highlighted here. Skills and competencies, increasing attention to staff training and also citizens' digital and media literature. In some countries, that is, they have managed to put that and highlighted that in curriculum, in educational settings, but still there is a lot to improve that so that it comes to everyday practice in all educational institutions and also for us. And then the integration. So how do we have a more strategical approach? That requires a common framework for service delivery and funding, and a formal commitment to a sustained development. In many countries, systems that are to support the career development, they are under many different ministries, and in order to get the formal commitment and reduce the overlapping and have a more strategical vision, that there is still, let's say, there's still space for improvement. So on that, to improve the use of digital technologies in career support, existing barriers to implementing effective digital guidance must be prioritized, addressed, and overcome at all career support levels. Implementation is an ongoing process. By better anticipating the challenges before they occur, less time is needed to resolve issues that could have been avoided, whether they are technical, whether they relate to the tools, whether they relate to the technical, the skills of the individuals and professionals. Further enhancement of synergies among actors and stakeholders at national, regional, and local levels is needed to ensure a common vision, leadership support, and a strategic path for implementation of digital technologies in career support services in national strategies. Ultimately, more effective implementation is seen to promote better use of higher quality research and services by citizens. And then coming to digitalizing ourselves. Well, digital transformation is just as much of people as it is about technology. as technological advances say, how individuals seek and acquire the information, there is a pressing need to more closely, well, my picture is there, challengingly, well, more closely to relate our practices and services to access these different technologies. Digitalization and digital transformation provides us a new opportunities, but as I said, this also continuously challenges us to consider our approach to services and also make sure that we as a professionals are equipped with the needed competencies to use the existing and emerging technologies in our professional practice. Well, there's a list of references as where this lecture was based. And if you have any further questions, please do be in touch and I'd be happy to respond to you. Now I'll give it back to you, Nikki.
Okay, Jaana, thank you very much for that. Right, what I'm going to do is change screens, Jaana, so that we can get the questions slide up. But that was super excellent, and I know Siobhan is going to do the more formal thank you. But let's move over to questions, shall we? So,
While you're finding the tech, Nikki, can I just thank Jaana for a wonderful presentation. We will do something more formal in a moment, but if I could just, and I'm sure all our colleagues in the room, in the multiple rooms that we're all in, would also like to give a digital clap to our distinguished speaker.
thank you, Jaana. I think you can hear lots of pinging. Thank you very much, colleagues. So lots and lots of clapping. That's wonderful. Jaana, I hope you can hear all these pings. This brings us to the questions, and I can see that people have been super busy on the Padlet already, but now is your opportunity to pose any more questions that you want for Jaana. And shortly I'm going to start to go through these, but right, yes, comments as well. I'm going to start with the first one, which is a super way of introducing the questions, Jaana. So somebody's asked, what inspired you to explore technology in careers?
Well, thank you. That's a very, very good question. Well, my background is on teaching, and when the technology, when we started on digitalizing, we were on that phase. There was a regional project here where they were wondering or trying to find out from teachers how would they like to use the technology. On that time, I was quite much younger than now, and since I had to use technology a bit, I said, well, why don't you join on this project? And from that, then I quite fast recognized that there was a lot of need in our sector that for support. So what can we do? What is the internet? And that actually then I started to think that my pedagogical background, I could make maybe I can help individuals and our profession to learn more about this. And I'm also by myself, I'm quite curious. What can we do with the technology? How it actually is useful? What needs to be where it brings something added value, and where we can say that okay, well, it's interesting, it's good, but we can look a little bit longer where this turns into a little bit long response, but hopefully
No,
gave a little.
that's really interesting, and it just makes me smile with joy actually, because you can tell career development practitioners are sitting here listening to you talking when people start asking questions like that. It's a lovely one to start with.
Yeah.
Lovely, really. I'm going to ask a question now. We got a policy question. Okay, so policymakers are often enthused by the idea that digital guidance, as they believe it, can save a lot of money and it can extend access without any loss in quality. What is your opinion of that? Do you think they're right?
I think there is are they right? Well, I think there are partially that from policymakers' perspective, I can understand the access issue, so that it might give a better access or extend the access for individuals. Whether the one idea that it will save money, I don't think so, because as I mentioned, it's not that you set up a system once. You need to have a continuous commitment on developing it. And when we have one-to-one, when we do a guidance online, it needs trained persons, it needs trained professionals. So the saving over there, I think we have research what to share for them that will actually show that it's not the saving things that is the right answer.
Okay, thank you for that.
So
Okay, this is a really interesting question, and one I've thought about myself somewhat actually. So your presentation didn't actually discuss the companies that run the technologies that we're being encouraged to use. Um, how should career practitioners think about them? Do we need to develop a set of responses to them to ensure, for example, that they're it's safe to use their products or what have you? What is your view of that?
yes, it is an important question. So and it is a bit of also a challenging, because that gives us a new layer, so that for us to be informed in different technologies, learning their what is behind on their products. But this is also what in my training, I try to highlight, that whatever service you are to look at, whether you use it, always look where, if they say that they have a career tool, what is it based on? Is there any kind of theory on it? Where the information is shared. Many of us work in such a settings where you have someone who actually can help you on making those decisions. So as an individual practitioner, you maybe don't face that so often. But yes, it is important that we also consider on those, and find associations maybe can help us to reflect on how to reply. What are the key things that we should look into companies? If companies, of course, market their services, we should be aware when we select and make the decisions.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I guess this next question is similarly linked actually to issues around ethics, and this relates to chatbots. Although I've seen this question aimed at algorithms as well, and it's, what are your views of chatbots? Can they be racist?
Well, can they be? Yes, because when most of the chatbots are still designed by certain groups who are making the scripts or the algorithms. So if there is, in theoretical, they could be. If there is, in theory, behind that, the algorithm which hasn't taken into account such a matter, it could happen. So this is also, as I said, we as a professionals are increasingly involved in many networks. This is also where we should quite actively engage ourselves on if we see that something like that is developed in our sector, or someone or there are signals that this is developed in our region, in our country or somewhere, just making sure that we are heard, so and that such issues don't come into those technologies. So they are still mostly man-designed, or they are behind of those. They are not learned. They don't learn by themselves. So hopefully we have an opportunity to raise such if we spot something like that, quickly raise that, but also hopefully sit on those tables where such technology is developed.
Oh, okay, thank you. Gosh, people keep adding questions. I'm sure we can go on for a few more minutes. Jaana, are you all right to continue?
I'm fine.
We've got a whole stream. The next question, I'm kind of looking at two questions which are linked. The first one isn't actually a question, it's a post by a colleague who talks about social media influencers as careers advisors. There's been some stuff in the media recently about how people, sometimes fairly young people, who consider themselves influencers on, various channels, are starting to, talk about careers and careers advice. So there's a growing awareness of this phenomenon, but a linked question is how can we teach young people to kind of respond to this? How do services themselves also need to respond to this?
Yeah, so as a services, if you see that there are influencers, I mean, following, if possible, see if you can make the use of them. So if you could cooperate, if that is something, if they have information, or if you could provide them something that they could share, that would be one way. But of course, then if there is something that it's not correct, then maybe considering on how could you get involved on just saying, okay, well, it's exciting that you are discussing this matter. Do you know we have a national? Do you know there's such information? Just getting in there and helping them to also become more aware of that. That is a totally new occupational plans. I see there's a training here, for example, for those become a social media influencer. So something new.
That's right, and engaging with young people to help them use this access in a way that's thought through, I guess, and teaching them the skills to be more discerning users of digital media maybe will be a good thing to do.
Yeah,
Gosh,
and I think of course, it comes once again, how do we educate young people to be critical media users? So who is providing the information? If it's an influencer, does she really know about that, or what is it what she's telling? So this is, of course, for us quite a big challenge. How do we reach them? How do we make ourselves heard on these settings? It is there is no simple answer to that.
For one of the older workers in the career development sector, just when I think I've got the hang of the latest media channel, I'm suddenly now going to have to learn how to TikTok. It's crazy trying to keep up. But there you go. Another question, which I'm going to slightly reposition, but it's about evidence of using face-to-face versus online or virtual interactions with clients. Is there any evidence about what the preferences are amongst clients? Do they like face-to-face versus online or vice versa? And is there any impact evidence around the different types of mode of delivering the services, to your knowledge?
Yeah, I think there is still a lot of space for such a research. What different age group for sure, if you ask, would maybe have a little bit different answers here. This is not based on any research, but generally I would say that we hear, of course, many people prefer to meet the individual and discuss, but still there are a number of young people who also find chatting, just having the question, having a quick conversation with the professional. If it's a smaller question, they seem to think that it's quite good. Adults, instead of texting or writing, they prefer seeing, so video channels. This comes through from evaluation from Danish e-guidance when they set up their service. I think they were doing an evaluation from adults when it expand from young people to adults. So they set up on that time the video conversation, since adults preferred it, such a model that they could see the professional. The differences in group settings, there are research from Canada that shows that in group settings, the learning outcomes in face-to-face settings and online settings, where there were not differences, so they were equally valued, or the outcomes were as good on online and on face-to-face settings. So but as I said, there's a lot of room for research on that, as I'm sure in iCeGs you know this.
Indeed, but thank you. So if anybody out there is listening and they've got some funding for some interesting research projects on face-to-face versus virtual interventions, that would be interesting to hear. Certainly, when we're reflecting on our experiences today, one of the things that we're asking ourselves is, our associates meeting and our annual lecture both seem to be very popular online, actually. So we are trying to decide for ourselves which approach is the best one to take. Maybe a blended one ultimately will be the answer. But anyway, Jaana, thank you for being sitting there and patiently taking all of our questions. I haven't asked all of them, so I do apologise if you've set a question for Jaana to answer. What I'm going to do when we've allowed Jaana to recover is to send us some of the questions that remain unanswered, and maybe we can work together on getting a response to those outside of this event. And we do hope that Jaana will be able to write up what she's been talking about as well for us. So we'll have a written version of the lecture too. So that's all fantastic. So Jaana, here are my thanks in buckets full, and I'm going to now hand over to Professor Siobhan Neary to do a more formal vote of thank you. But from me, thank you very much. So over to you, Siobhan.
Thanks, Nikki, and thank you, Jaana. I have to say, I can't believe how quickly the time went with your presentation there. It was absolutely fascinating and thoughtful, and I think what I took very much from it was that you helped me, and I'm sure other colleagues and practitioners, see our role in digitization, and that, consciously and subconsciously, where we are becoming digitized much more and more, because it's such a part of our daily environment. And I think, you know, what we've been looking at over the last hour is some opportunities to consider where the questions in relation to our practice and the work that we do. The phrase that I will take away with me at the end of today is that digital transformation is as much about people as it is about technology, and I really liked that. I thought that for me worked so well with the perspective that we bring as professional career practitioners. I think you held up a mirror for us and helped us to reflect and see what we're currently doing and how we're currently working, and what other ways of working and what other opportunities might be there. And I know obviously a lot of colleagues through COVID, their practice has evolved significantly, and confidence and skills have evolved. But again, as you know, as you quite rightly present, is that, you know, this isn't anything that's going to stop. It is evolving, and the practice and the tools is also going to continue. And you presented a number of models for us, I think, that help position social justice and perhaps more collaborative and more community approaches in terms of guidance. And again, I was really fascinated with what you were saying about you know, platform and group related activities and our roles as facilitators within that. And again, I know a lot of adult guidance practitioners who their work has become highly exemplary in using group and digital to work with clients over the last couple of years. And that in itself brings us to some of the questions that were asked, and, you know, the issues around digital poverty, and the digitization and technology is often seen as the great equalizer, but that's not really the reality for a lot of people. And it's something that I think, you know, as careers professionals, we need to be working to challenge digital poverty and ensure equal access for our clients, regardless of their social position in life. And I think you raised a lot of questions for us, and there were a lot in there, both in the chat and on the questions, around artificial intelligence. And that's the second time today I've been involved in a discussion about artificial intelligence, which I think just positions it as something that we need to be aware of and to think more about, and also where we sit within that. And I know there were some concerns and questions about where we sit and about the ethics around AI going forward. So the presentation has raised a lot of challenges for us. It's raised a lot of tensions. It's raised a lot of questions for us, but it's also given us an incredible amount of food for thought, and ideas to explore in more detail. And I totally support the idea, and maybe we might be able to do something jointly, you know, transnational project around how clients perceive, you know, the guidance online. I know work we've done, young people didn't know any difference because that's the only experience they've had. So we can't make assumptions about this, and we do need to have a stronger evidence base to ensure that what we're doing is appropriate for that individual and their particular needs. So I would like to formally thank you, Jaana, for an absolutely fascinating and wonderful presentation. So if I could ask colleagues to do their virtual claps again, that would be brilliant. And I'd also like to thank all of our participants, because I think I've rarely seen such an amazing set of questions, and I think there's some really interesting thought pieces that could be there, that we might be able to look at in more detail, and perhaps take some of these questions further in ongoing discussion. So thank you, Jaana, and thank you, colleagues. And I think Nikki has got a couple more slides to share with us, just to draw the event to a close. Thank you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Before I go on to those, Jaana, was there anything you wanted to come back and say there before we move on to our closing slides at all? we'll certainly be looking for ways of collaborating, and I agree, Siobhan, some of the questions raised some interesting ideas for our 25th anniversary activities going forward as well. But okay, I'm going to move on then. There are a couple of things that I wanted to just draw your attention to. So we've got a number of events coming up. So if you've enjoyed this one, please make sure that you get involved in future events. The next one coming up is the International Practitioner Research Conference, which the CDI, iCeGs, NICEC and AGCAS are jointly hosting. This will be a virtual event. It's on February the 16th, February 2023. We've also got the National Career Leaders Conference coming up. That will be on June the 27th, and that will be at the University of Derby. That will be a jointly run event between the CDI and iCeGs as well. And then, of course, you've heard that we are beginning our 25th anniversary year, and we are planning, although they're not advanced plans yet, but we are planning a range of different activities. And I know that many people that registered for the event have offered to do a small talking heads presentation for us. So we will be coming back to you and seeking some support for doing that, because we'd like a montage of people talking about how iCeGs has impacted on their work. Now, in terms of academic study, we are currently recruiting for our career leaders programs and also for our MA in careers education and coaching for next September. So if anybody's interested in either the career leaders or the MA, then please contact us for a conversation and we can tell you all about that. I've now, let me just click on to the next slide, got some special requests. So IFSA, who's been very active in the session today, I think she's already posted on this, but she's undertaking research for her PhD, and she's got a survey out at the moment. So here's the link for the survey, but also, you know, contact IFSA if you'd like to be part of that research. She's actively recruiting at the moment. Some other information, so nominations for the National Career Development Awards are now open. The awards are made by the Career Development Institute. The link's here, but you can also find information on their website. And you know, it's always a joy to recognise individuals for the fantastic work they do. There are so many people that have just been involved today through questions and chat and behind all sorts of things going on here. So if there are people here you'd like to nominate, please have a look on the CDI website for that. And also the CDI have got their Big Listen survey going on, and a range of events that IFSA has already flagged as well. So please make sure you get actively involved in that as well. Finally, we really value people's comments about our annual lecture, and we would really welcome all of you completing our evaluation feedback form. Now you can get to that through this QR code. We will be writing to you after the event and encouraging you to do that either through a QR code or a link. We've got both. But please do that for us, because it does help shape next year's lecture, and we will be asking, you know, for ideas for speakers and what have you through that process as well. So as I say, do get actively involved in that. As you know, we've been recording the event today. We will edit the video and then we'll post that on the website, and so you'll have access to that. We've had apologies, so people who registered will also get emailed that that's there, and the slides will be made available as well. And also, as I said earlier on, we'll be approaching Jaana to look at some of the questions that we didn't get around to, but also in preparing a paper based on her lecture today. So once these are all ready, it usually takes a number of months to get all of those little slots in place. So once that's been done, we'll be emailing you all out so that you know that these things are available.
Nicola, can I do a finally?
So please do, yes. So finally.
Yeah. But finally, we can't end today without a massive thank you to Nikki and Paul. We did have to move, and to Tom actually as well, we had to move the associates this morning and the annual lecture online. at very, very short notice, and they've both done an amazing job to deliver such a professional event. So absolutely thank you to all of you for all the hard work that you've put in the last couple of days. And I know how hard it is for us to get rooms in this place. Anybody who works in a university knows what rooming is like. And I know it's just broken Paul's heart that we had to give all the rooms back today that he'd taken. I don't know what he did to get them, but he got them for
Blood,
us. So,
blood, it
you
was
know,
blood.
packets of biscuits have always worked very well in this place, or they've worked for us anyway. But I would like to thank the team for their help and support, and finally to thank Jaana. Really, you know, I'm without words at the moment, but it has been an exceptional lecture, and I think it will go down in the history of one of our great ones, and very, very stimulating and thought-provoking. And thank you to everybody. I owe absolutely everybody in the world an apology, because I did promise on social media mince pies. We have got mince pies in the office. We've eaten a lot of them. The rest I've given to the student union. So you know, students, thank you for the mince pies.
Thank you,
you,
Siobhan,
everybody.
and yeah, and have a great Christmas and seasonal break. However you celebrate, please find some peace and rest over the Christmas break. And thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm now stopped recording now.